demanded. Thanks very much for that introduction. Somewhat passionate, but somewhat true. I would like us all to give a round of applause to the 10 candidates that we heard from tonight. I think that they were excellent, extremely excellent in what they spoke about in terms of their plans for their various constituencies. I also believe, and we heard them, the emphasis on communities, the development of communities, which is critical for any country to grow and to prosper. I was invited by Clayton, and I must commend Clayton and his team for hosting this extremely interesting event. A mixed audience, I would say, and that is why I did not start out by saying comrades, friends, and everybody else. Because a political movement cannot succeed by talking only to themselves. They need, or is there something taking place? Okay. The point I'm making is that a political movement cannot succeed in a poll by speaking only to its members. It has to reach out to others, the independents and the other party. And that is critical that the candidates understand that in order to succeed, much less thrive, we need to reach across the bridge and embrace the other side. Now, I was asked to speak tonight on the 1st of May, but the way things were going, I thought I would be speaking on the 2nd of May. One thing that I will promise you, I am a subscriber, or that I subscribe to the Annie Palmer School of Public Speaking, when she said to her several husbands, "I will not keep thee long." So, the theme of this event is basically learning from history. Something which I have guided me throughout my entire 40 years of public service, broke times by working overseas and by working in the private sector, is a point which was made by the former Prime Minister, Comrade P.J. Patterson, at an event which was hosted here by Clayton, when he said that you can be affiliated with a political party, but your allegiance must be to the country, must be to the country. And so I am not in any way afraid to say tonight that I am affiliated with the People's National Party, but that my allegiance is to Jamaica land we love. And that should be the guiding principle of all of us here. In fact, I thought that we would have received some people from the other side, Clayton, tonight. We did. And it's good to have individuals who support the other side to hear the message of our candidates, of Sister Bev, of Comrade Clayton, to get a clear feel of what it is that a government formed by the People's National Party will deliver for the people of Jamaica. And not some of the people, but all of the people. All of the people. Now, I have been identified with several projects, as Sister Bev has told you. But there's something which is happening in the country where a tale, a narrative is being developed as if nothing was done by the People's National Party government for 18 years. A narrative which seems to be taking root in certain areas. So let me just highlight a couple of these things. The Montego Bay bypass, for argument's sake. The Montego Bay bypass. That was a project which was conceptualized and developed at the Development Bank of Jamaica while I was the CEO. In February 25th, 2003, February 25th, 2003, after serious negotiations, the government of Jamaica signed an agreement with the government of Malaysia for the construction of the Montego Bay bypass. That was done in Malaysia on February 25th, 2003. The government of Malaysia committed to fund the project, which then was estimated to cost $70 million US. 70 million. That was the cost which was estimated to build the Montego Bay bypass. Substantially along the same route that it has been done. 70 million. The government of Malaysia committed to fund 60%. 60% of that, or 42 million, with the Jamaican government only have to put in $28 million. It's a generation, 20 odd years have passed, and that is when the highway, the bypass, is being constructed at a cost 4 times that which it would have costed us in 2003, 2004. From 70 million to 280 million. 47 is not 28. Thanks. But what is happening is that there is a total disconnect. It's as if that project was not conceptualized by a previous administration. That is what is happening. That is the narrative that is being spread around the place. As if nothing was done during the People's National Party's term in office. That nothing was done. It has even got so bad. And I'm not using the term bad mind. You understand? I'll leave that for other people. They are changing or have changed the name of Highway 2000 so as to not associate it with the period of the People's National Party. To Trans-Jamaica Highway. And I would just like to say something to my candidates. And this is, you have to think outside of the box. You have to dream. You have to come up with ideas to solve the problems. You are going to face a lot of obstacles along the way. A lot of obstacles. I remember when I first moved to the Highway 2000, everybody said it was a crazy idea. They called it a highway in the sky. Well, of course, there are areas where the highway is in the sky, but they thought it was a dream. And so you will come up against obstacles, but you have to have a commitment. You need to have a passion. You need to have a drive. You need to have a team. You need to have the energy and the confidence that what you intend to do, what you plan to do, is for the betterment of the peoples of your constituency and of Jamaica. I am not a political speaker. Far from that. Right? Far from that. But when I look at what is happening in Jamaica today, I'm sure it must give most people a serious cause for concern. Serious cause for concern. The level of disorder on the streets. I see videos of the traffic in Montego Bay. Andre mentioned the whole thing of transportation in his presentation, right? But I have a theory. And the theory is, and Clayton might disagree with me here, there is this phrase, law and order. Okay? But it is my view that order needs to precede law. And I believe there needs to be a sort of code of conduct for people to abide by. The rules of life, the rules of living. We can go back to the 10 Commandments or some other code. And if those codes and rules of conduct are breached, that is where the law comes in. To punish or to deal with those who do not follow the order that is laid down. And Reverend Sam Stewart have a tune that is very popular now. Send it back, send it back. Yes, and I think we have, but we have to watch that because I understand that its origin was with slavery. I mean, but we have to watch how we use that. Though it's very catchy. But my interpretation or my version of it would be to reverse the course, not the curse, reverse the course, because it is clear that the course we are on is not resulting in an improvement in the quality of life for the majority of Jamaicans. And I apologize. I'm extremely passionate about my country. I could have been overseas, working elsewhere, but whoa. Can you hear me? I stay here because I feel, I'm on borrowed time now, right? As I try to tell people, I still have a brain, and I try to tell people that I only age from my scalp up, right? You seem uncomfortable with that, Sister. but we have to understand that as is, the country is just not in a right place. The state of the nation is not good. It's not good. And they say in public speaking, you must try to get the audience participating. So I'm going to ask a question. But I don't want you to answer. I don't want you to answer. I will ask a question and then request how you answer. The question is, are you happy with the conditions in Jamaica? If you are not happy with the conditions in Jamaica, those of you who are seated remain seated, and those of you who are standing keep standing. So it is clear that everybody here is unhappy, because those who were seated remain seated, and those who were standing remain standing. So, I will not burden you. I came with a different text, but I would just like to point out just a couple little things which you can do individually, collectively, with a team. Little things which can transform the lives of individuals. I recall in 2004, the Minister of National Security came to me when Commissioner Macmillan, Colonel Macmillan, was the Commissioner of Police. The fleet of cars should have been 1,216, and all the police had was 216. 216 out of that amount. And the minister passed my office one day and saw a whole heap of vehicles. But I'd got those vehicles on that program to do some agricultural work in the hillside of St. Andrew and St. Catherine. But I said to the minister, if you want cars, tell me. I will organize cars for you. And by the time he reached his office, I had sent him, that time it was fax. I sent him a fax with a proposal for 15 million US dollars to have brought in 850 motor vehicles and motorbikes in 2004. And that was done 4 months after he and I spoke. A lot of people thought it was impossible. But as I say, you have sometimes to dream the impossible dream. To fight the unbeatable foe. We need to have the passion. And one of the things, I don't know if anybody here remember, but the audience is much younger than I am. You remember when all the police cars were black and white? Okay. Well, when those 800 vehicles came in, I wrote to the Prime Minister, I wrote to the Minister of National Security, and I wrote to the Commissioner. And I had a design with it pressed and the thing and everything to make the fleet more user-friendly. And Commissioner Macmillan responded and said, yes, go ahead. And that is how we have all of these decals now on the vehicles. But a funny thing is, the orders of the police force still say that they should be black and white after 20 years. After 20 years, right? So what I'm saying is this, and by the way, at the time we were under an IMF agreement, a very strict IMF agreement, And so how we had to design the thing is, if the bank bought the vehicles and lease it to the Ministry of National Security. If we had a 5-year lease, it would be captured and capitalized, right? As a loan, as a liability. So I can talk now, because what we did is came out with 5 360-day leases. So every year it was a new lease. And that is how we managed to deal with it. So for every problem that we face, there are multiple solutions. We just have to have the confidence that we can do it. We need to have the passion. We need to have the will. And we need to have the guts to sometimes know that you're going to fail. It's not all the time you're going to succeed. It's not all the time you're going to succeed. Let me just go back one moment to Highway 2000. Did you know that Highway 2000, which was considered a madman idea, has now seen over 50 million toll users? And did you know that the East-West Corridor, which is run by Trans-Jamaica Highway, in the history of the Jamaica Stock Exchange, has paid the second highest dividend to the public, the second highest dividend after a certain ban. But if you know what you're doing is right, if you know that in the medium and long term it will turn out proper, then go ahead, put your head down and do what you have to do. Let me come to Montego Bay. I'm from Antrovy. Went to Antrovy Primary School, went to Cornwall College. And let me tell you this. They said that a friend of mine the other day, I told him I'm going to Mobile. He said to me, Montego Bay is a nice place to come from, but not a nice place to go to. And I asked why. He said, boy, the place, mash up, traffic, the whole city has deteriorated. And we are not short of plans to improve Montego Bay and its environs. Years and years and years of plans have been done. But what has happened? There has not been the level of continuity in order to make those plans a reality. I don't know how many of you will recall, Janice, that there was this institution called Tourism Action Plan, TAP. It was developed under a JLP administration when Hugh Hart was Minister of Tourism. Maurice Facey was the chairman. It became an organization which collaborated with the chambers of commerce of all the tourist capitals, where the chambers of commerce developing in association with the technicians plans for each of the tourism resort centers. The chambers also assisted with the financing of those plans. The Tourism Action Plan. They did the following. St. James Street, I don't know if Dave or Allen will recall or whoever. St. James Street was cleared of all the vendors. The sidewalks were tidied. And what happened? They even put in period light, the lampposts of that area. I don't even know if they're still there. I don't even know if they're still there. So what I'm saying is this, that is not a question of want of plans. There have been plans, right? What is required is continuity in those plans, the monitoring of what is happening. We can't continue as a country by just changing things without having the type of outcome that we desire. TAP also had a resort patrol. You recall that later? To prevent harassment of the tourists. A resort police force headed by Colonel Leslie Lloyd to ensure that the harassment of tourists was mitigated in a very professional manner and, eliminated if possible. Tourism Action Plan also put up information booths in the tourism capital. I think the only one that is remaining now is across from Turtle Beach Towers in Ocho Rios. So what I'm saying is this, we already have the template. We already have the template to ensure, to implement significant changes to our tourism centers. One thing on tourism, one other thing on tourism. Everybody hear about this Tourism Enhancement Fund? They have a saying, you see? They have a saying that failure is an orphan. That failure is an orphan, but success has many parents. Well, here are the facts regarding the Tourism Enhancement Fund. Here are the facts, documented facts. I went to a conference in the Dominican Republic, and the party, about 8 people, they decided after the conference to go to Antigua for watch cricket. I decided to go into the capital of Dominican Republic to talk to the tourism interest there. And a couple of months before that, you may recall an American Airlines plane leaving New York City to Dumfries, crashed, killing 257 people. But when I checked the figures, the arrivals to Dumfries continue to increase. So I asked the tourism officials with whom I met, how did this happen? They said they called in all of their tourists, the tour operators, and said to them, I want you to keep and increase the presence of DR on the front page, in their ads and so on. And the tour operators asked them, so who's going to pay for it? There was an entrance fee when you go to Dumfries. You fill out a little piece of paper, tourist card, cost cents to print, but you have to pay $10 for it. That $10 went to the government. The government said to the tour operators, instead of we keeping that money, you use that $10, right? And fund. That was how I learned about this tourism card. And then came back. I spoke to IATA. I spoke to the Airline Remittance Corporation, which dealt with remitting the funds from the thing, from ticket sales, the clearinghouse. And I met with the Minister of Tourism, tourism officials, tourism stakeholders, and they accepted it. I wrote the cabinet submission. I assisted in writing the parliamentary paper. And I would just like to say one thing. The current Minister of Tourism objected to the Tourism Enhancement Fund. Go and check Hansard. I have it. Right? One of the things, however, that was very critical is that the proceeds of the Tourism Enhancement Fund, which currently brings in close to $30 million a year to Jamaica, should not be used for recurrent expenditure and PR and travels overseas, but should be used to develop the tourism capitals like Montego Bay, Ocho Rios, Negril, and also critically critically, attractions. Attractions. But hear the shot. One of the projects we developed had to deal with reggae. Jamaica is known as the reggae capital of the world. But where can a tourist go to see a high performance reggae show? In Cuba, you have Tropicana. In Mexico, you have folk, what do they call it? You used to those places. Folkloric or something like that. And at the Louvre, you have the same type of thing, where you have 2 or 3 shows per day. We developed a whole choreographed program where we would train dancers. We would have, in fact, by then I had negotiated the purchase of the wharves from Hamden, and the theater would be in one of those wharves. And we have everything down pat. And one of the things I'm trying to tell, Mr. Siaka wrote a big thing from reggae. We wrote a big thing from reggae from scatter reggae, right? And I got it from him. I gave it to one Mrs. Brewster from England, right? Who came down to do all the choreographing and the, and it was called Wake the Town and Tell the People. I still have those documents with me, right? Because those are the things which the TEF is supposed to fund, to increase the number of and quality of attractions, to increase the number and quality of attractions. So when someone comes, I have nothing against all-inclusive. I think it's a product. But when someone comes and stays in an all-inclusive and goes on some tours which they don't experience Jamaica. And I remember speaking to a guy up in Atlanta, he's an automobile salesman. Said he has been to Jamaica 5 times in Ocho Rios. I said, where did you go? He stayed in the hotel. I said, well, you have not been to Jamaica. You have not experienced Jamaica. And so, what I think we have to do, and I would suggest to the aspirants for political office, is that we look very, very seriously. And I think Janice has spoken about it on several occasions, to integrate tourism into the Jamaica culture, psyche, and lifestyle. And I'm not talking necessarily about community tourism, which is being touted. No. I'm saying that there has to be attractions which bring to life our strong features as a musical destination of the world. And I promised you that I would follow the teachings of Annie Palmer, that I would not keep you long, which is what she told her husband. So, it is my view that the lawlessness, disorder on our streets roads, and the incidents of violence in our schools, that these must stop. And it can be done with the will and the passion exhibited here tonight. Our educational system needs to be significantly improved, producing graduates suitable for the world of work and well prepared for the technological changes that are taking place. This must be done, and it can be done. And one of the reasons why I'm happy to see somebody like Dr. Andre Horton involved is the link between academia and the real world. Andre, the great Mao Zedong, called it praxis, where you mix theory and the practical. And that is what I think you bring to the table. You bring to the table. You bring to the table. Because currently, I'm a part-time lecturer at the University of the West Indies. I lecture final year engineering students in accounting and finance. And let me tell you this, our educational system is in a crisis. I get rationale for it, I mean, 50% of my students failed my exam, the course. 50%. But let me explain something to you. Somebody else who was teaching logistics told me that 75% of his students failed. Because there is a mistake between, and they ask them to analyze something. Instead of analyzing, they describe it. One has to think. One has to think. So the improvement in our educational system must be done, and with the energy, it can be done. There's an urgent need for the improvement of the physical characters of the second city and other capitals of tourism. We can't wait. Time is not on our side, as Andre pointed out in his presentation. Certain world events are dictating that we have to take our own future in our hands, build and become resilient to external shocks. Am I misquoting you, Andre? Thanks very much, sir. I never like to lie in public. We have to insist that the Tourism Enhancement Fund reverts to its original mandate and must be used to improve our main towns, develop attractions, and that all of this must be prioritized to ensure sustainability of our tourism sector. This must be done, and with the will and the vision, it can be done. I know that Janice will be, and both Janice and Heather will be happy about this one. There is also an urgent need to transform squatter communities in the environs of the towns of the West by providing affordable and adequate housing for workers in the tourism industry and other sectors of the Jamaican economy. And I see where a hotel, I think it is the Princess, I don't like to call names, but just built in Green Island, Cousins Cove, I think that's where it's located, has decided to build several units for the workers. And I'm sure based on the passion that Heather has for this type of community development, that she may have had a hand in that effort. And so, the final thing, and it is this. There was a thing which some old Cornwallians will remember. It was started by, not started, but it was led here by the former Custos of St. James. It was called moral rearmament. Anybody remember moral rearmament? Then it was taken over by Teacher Cook. You were not born yet. Well, let me explain something to you. What is the guiding principle of moral rearmament? The guiding principle of moral rearmament is that morality, integrity must be practiced as the key path for the betterment of peoples of the world. So Jamaica, in my opinion, needs at this time a moral rearmament. A moral rearmament. From uptown to downtown. From King's House, you said it. As the chairman pointed out, I'm on camera. So look here. I've been long enough. We need to do not believe that we cannot achieve certain things. There will be obstacles in our path. There will be those who say it cannot be done. There will be those who say you are mad. But as I quoted the song, to dream the impossible dream, one, and there was another song, Sweet Harmony. Who sang that one? Andre, you know music. Smokey Robinson. When he said, I believe in miracles. If I dream, it can be done. And so I urge, cajole, exhort, beg of the aspirants to represent the peoples of St. James, Hanover, and Trelawney, and Westmoreland. You don't cover Trelawney. But I saw somebody from Trelawney here. So, for these three parishes, I exhort you to think first, of what you want to do, consult with your constituents, come up with a plan agreed to by all, and prepare a roadmap for its implementation. There was one MP which did this, who I worked with, and he did it. His name was Jack Stevenson. He died in a motor vehicle accident, right? But he was Deputy Minister of Tourism. And I'm saying to you that do not let it be felt that you cannot achieve, you cannot make your dreams into a reality. I'm not used to bright lights, you know, man. Anyway, so with that, I wish luck to all of the candidates gathered here who made excellent presentations. There's just one way, based on my experience in the political arena, and Sister Bev will confirm. It is not social media. It is not big ads. It is walking the ground. You need to walk the ground. God bless you, and thank you for listening.